there's anything I can do for you, please tell me.
Enchantments.
I'm sure you'll be pleased with the... Are you sure I can't interest you in this hat? There's knights from Redcliffe spread all over Ferelden on some kind of mission, but I hear that they're starting to become rarefied. Maybe they all went back to Redcliffe. More likely they got tired of searching for something that can't be found and abandoned their search. I wonder what Earl Eamon is going to do without any knights. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is. Thank the Maker we didn't lose Tyrn Loghain at Ostagar. He pulled his troops out just in time, so it said. Without him, we'd be lost. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is.
Lies.
I'm sure you'll be pleased with...
Got all kinds of fancy crap. Okay. Hello, you want to talk about those dead children, or...?
Speak, then.
No?
Then I suggest we move on. I am hardly surprised. To answer a question. Were you not at Ostagar when the army was overwhelmed? That is your answer. Why do you? Do you think the Kunari live on some other world, then? Yes. I cannot go home. It doesn't matter now. Can we move on? We keep the Darkspawn waiting. As you wish.
You're very annoying. I hope you know that. Why are you pissed? Ugh. Fine, be pissed off. See if I care.
What do you need? Ask away. I suppose I could. But I really would rather not. When the Grand Cleric let Duncan recruit me, she made me swear never to reveal Templar secrets outside of the Chantry. I'd rather not go back on my word. Ask me later, perhaps. Maybe I'll change my mind.
My approval is
This
higher.
is not something small you're asking, after all.
I didn't say I was done.
What do you need? Ask away. Have you seen the uniform? It's not only stylish, but well made. I'm a sucker for good tailoring.
Hardy, hardy, hardy.
Oh, you aren't kidding. I think the Templar uniforms are as colourful as they are just so the Templars didn't feel dull in comparison. Last thing you want when you're about to take down some Maleficar out in the woods is to have him point and laugh at your taste in clothing, am I right? Oh, you know, between all the guilt and the hours spent in solemn prayer, any good Templar or priest is just bursting to tell a few good jokes when the opportunity arises. You don't really want to know about my being a Templar, do you? It's really quite boring. Poke, poke, poke. Tell me everything about your life, Alistair. All right, if you insist. It's not like we have anything better to do, right? The truth of the matter is that I did hate going to the monastery. The initiates from poor families thought I put on airs, while the noble ones called me a bastard and ignored me. I felt like Earl Eamon had cast me off, unwanted, and I was determined to be bitter. But I took some solace in the training itself, I guess. I was actually quite good at it. The education, mostly, but also the discipline. You need to have a disciplined mind in order to use the abilities we have. It was difficult, but rewarding. I never really felt at home anywhere, though, until I joined the Grey Wardens. And Duncan felt my Templar abilities might be useful for when we encountered Darkspawn magic, so I kept it up. What about you? Do you have anywhere you consider home? We won't always be traveling like this, you know. Once the war is over, once the Blight is, well, a
we all
Though that
die.
seems like a far ways off. And I suppose the Grey Wardens are gone for good. Either way. I suppose you're right. We can create new Grey Wardens, but we'll never get back those we lost.
Oh my god, dog, shut up!
I wonder if it would ever feel the same. Anyhow, now I've sidetracked us. We'd better get back to what we're supposed to be doing right now.
Would you shut up? Shut up! That doesn't look inconspicuous to me, but okay. Did you just roll in your pee? You were barking, so I would come watch you pee. Nice. Okie dokie. Hello, madam.
Yes? Well, here I am.
Yeah. I heard all your stories. And where is Madam Morgan? You and you. All by herself. Hello.
What do you wish of me?
I downloaded a mod that got rid of her stupid pearl necklace because it looked like it was painted on. And this one looks better. So, you will not see that stupid tattoo of a necklace on Morgan anymore. Hooray for mods! Ooh, something personal.
We're in camp, so 'tis as good a time as any.
Tis!
I am here because Flemeth commanded me to aid you. Why? Do you wish me to leave? I can do so if you prefer.
Alright, don't get snippy.
If I wanted to leave, then I would go. I remain, so do not ask such pointless questions.
Me. Oh, for God's sake.
What do you wish of me? We are in camp, so 'tis as good a time as any.
Tis?
I am here because Flemeth commanded me to aid you. Why? Do you wish me to leave? I can do so if you prefer. Then I assume our discussion ends here.
Ugh. So picky.
What do you wish of me? If you must. By others, do you mean yourself? Then I shall teach you what I can whenever we are in camp, provided you have the will to even make the attempt, that is.
How many of those can I unlock? If I do like one... I can unlock okay, well, just in case, just gonna not do that.
What do you wish of me? If you must. Why do you ask me such questions? I do not probe you for pointless information, do I? Beg pardon then while I jump for joy. What is it you asked if I grew up in the wilds? A curious question. Where else would you picture me? For many years it was simply Flemeth and I. The wilds and its creatures were more real to me than Flemeth's tales of the world of man. In time I grew curious. I left the wilds to explore what lay beyond, never for long. Brief forays into a civilized wilderness. I am no primitive, painted in blood and unable to speak the language. Flemeth knows much of your world and taught me well. For all that I had been taught, however, the truth of the civilized lands proved to be overwhelming. I was unfamiliar with so much. So confident and bold was I, yet there was much that Flemeth could never have prepared me for. Equal parts daring and foolhardy, perhaps. Only once was I accused of being a witch of the wilds, and that by a chastened who happened to be travelling with a merchant caravan. He pointed and gasped and began shouting in his strange language. Most assumed he was casting some curse upon me. I acted the terrified girl, and naturally, he was arrested. Men are always willing to believe two things about a woman. One, that she is weak, and two, that she finds him attractive. I played the weakling and battered my eyelashes at the captain of the guard. Child's play. The point being that I was able to move through human lands fairly easily. Whatever humans think a witch of the wild looks like, 'tis not I. Not that I did not have trouble. There are things about human society which have always puzzled me, such as the touching. Why all the touching for a simple greeting?
I'll do this one though.
To begin with, yes. What is the point of touching my hand? I find it an offensive intrusion. There were many nuances that Flemeth could never tell me of. When to look into another's eyes.
When you're
How
talking
to
to them
eat at a table.
with a
How
fork
to bargain without offending.
by
None of
saying
these
please.
things I knew. I still do not
something, I
understand
don't
it all, truth be told, but then I gave up long ago any hope of doing so. When I returned to the wilds last, I swore to Flemeth that I had no intention of leaving again.
And here you are.
Yes? Let's ignore the entire Darkspawn threat in the presence of a simpleton as your only other great modern ally, then. Not that I
Aw,
lack
poor
appreciation
Alistair.
for the intent of your comment. Thank you. Well, let's get on with it before the ground opens up and swallows us, yes?
Yay! She approved of something! All I had to do was kiss her ass.
Yes?
Anything else?
At times, perhaps. A world full of people and buildings and things was all very foreign to me. If I wished companionship, I ran with the wolves and flew with the birds. If I spoke, 'twas to the trees. Don't be foolish. I recall the first time I crept beyond the edge of the wilds. I did so in animal form, remaining in the shadows and watching these strange townsfolk from afar. I happened upon a noblewoman by her carriage, adorned in sparkling garments the likes of which I had never before seen. I was dazzled. This, to me, seemed what true wealth and beauty must be. I snuck up behind her and stole a hand mirror from the carriage. It was encrusted in gold and crystalline gemstones, and I hugged it to my chest with delight as I sped back to the wilds. Flemeth was furious with me. I was a child and had not yet come into my full power, and I had risked discovery for the sake of a pretty bauble. To teach me a lesson, Flemeth took the mirror and smashed it upon the ground.
No.
I was heartbroken. And a foolish one. Flemeth was right to break me of my fascination. Beauty and love are fleeting and have no meaning. Survival has meaning. Power has meaning. Without those lessons, I would not be here today, as difficult as they might have been. They did indeed. To return to your original question, perhaps my time in the wilds was indeed lonely, but such was how it had to be. I find myself at times wondering what might have become of the girl with the beautiful golden mirror, but such fantasies have no place amidst reality.
She would be the same, except that she would have a mirror.
Yes,
Yes?
if you must. You are very cute to ask so many questions.
Thank you.
Really? we should be wrapped in ribbons and adorned with flowers. So cute are we, too.
Maybe we should.
My mother has been hunted from time to time, yes, by Templar fools like Alistair, which should tell you how successful they generally were. Flemeth made a bit of a game of it, in fact. The Templars would come again, and she would look at me and smile and say that the fun was to begin once more. They came with as much swagger and arrogance as they did self-righteousness. Pity them if you wish, for they held none for us. Flemeth would warn them once. 'Twas a warning they inevitably failed to heed. And then the true game began. Often Flemeth would use me as bait. A little girl to scream and run and lure the Templars deeper into the wilds and to their doom. Sometimes, eventually. Thankfully, the wilds is a vast place. Once they found us, Flemeth would simply move us elsewhere, and we would be lost within the forest once again. I did not understand the danger we faced until I was much older. I had never heard of apostates or maleficarum. Is it true, then, that given enough time, the prisoner will learn to love the cell? The Chantry sees any mages not leashed to the Circle of Magi as apostates, and apostates could become maleficarum, evil mages that resort to blood magic and become demon-enslaved abominations. It may even be true. Still, those of us who prefer freedom see no reason to submit. An interesting answer for a mage. Enough of this talk. Let us return to the task at hand.
Why are you pissed off? Oh, for God's sake. You are impossible.
Yes?
Yes?
If you must. Well, that depends, does it not? What does she seem to be?
Creepy old lady. A nutty old bat.
Oh, she is certainly old. Have no mistake of that. Tell me, how much do you know of the tale? The one that the chastened still tell of my mother, to frighten them into obedience. No doubt such a tale has mutated much over time and telling. I can relay what Flemeth once told me herself, and you can decide whether or not 'tis the truth, if you desire.
Sure. Hit me.
As the tale is sung by the bards, there was a
No,
time
this
when
is gonna be
Flemeth
long.
was young and beautiful. A fair lass in a land of barbarian men, the desire of any who saw her. Many centuries before this land was even named Ferelden. The tales say that Flemeth fell in love with Osen the bard, and fled the castle of her husband, the Dreadlord Conobar, and that he swore vengeance for her infidelity. In truth, my mother claims that 'twas Osen who was her husband, and Conobar the jealous lord who looked on from afar. Lord Conobar approached young Osen and offered him wealth and
What?
power in exchange for his lovely wife.
What?
And Osen agreed.
What? Seems like a fair deal.
The life of a bard is a poor one, and love fades in the wake of hunger. 'Twas Flemeth who suggested the arrangement. All
Oh.
would have been well had
Okay.
Lord Conobar kept his end of the bargain. But he was a foul man who bargained with coin he did not possess. Osen was led off to a field and slain, left for dead. Flemeth spoke to the spirits and learned of the deed, and swore revenge. That was not the point. Conobar had no honor, so she would not have him. Flemeth begged the spirits to aid her, and 'twas they who slew Conobar. The demon the legend tells of came later. Lord Lord Conobar's allies chased Flemeth, you see. Chased her to the wilds, and there she hid. There she found the demon, and he made her strong. The legends all speak of the great hero Cormac, he who defeated Flemeth and her great army when she invaded the lowlands centuries later. All lies.
Lies.
The truth of the matter is that there was never an invasion. As Flemeth tells it, the Chastened never raised an army under her banner, and she never fought with any warrior named Cormac. Cormac led a brutal civil war against his own people, and later claimed it was to vanquish evil that had taken root amongst the lords. Thus, he was hailed a hero.
Typo.
Flemeth was only attached to the legend much later. Perhaps 'twas due to the great war with the Chastened that eventually came, but Mother claims not to know how it began.
That all sounds like hogwash.
You ask if I have sisters. I have asked of this myself. The stories tell of many witches of the wilds after all, not just the one. And these tales existed long before I did. Flemeth refuses to speak of other daughters, if they existed. So, should I believe I am her first? I doubt that too. The Chastened tell of a falling out between Flemeth and her daughters. They say that one day she hunted them all through the wilds and ate their hearts.
Nice.
It may be true. I have never seen another witch or heard of one. Perhaps one day Flemeth will eat my heart as well.
Yummy.
I do not believe everything that Flemeth claims. Oft it seems her bitterness has coloured her memories. But on the whole, yes, I believe this tale, if not all. The demon within her has transformed her into something else. An abomination, perhaps some would say. I know not. I only know my mother is clever, and she is part of the wilds as it is part of her. But she is no immortal. She bleeds. A blade in her heart would kill her like any other, were it lucky enough to find her. How often is this usually? Always? If not always, then when is it not true? There are more things in this world and the next than you or I could ever hope to understand. What Flemeth became is a mystery.
Is that plagiarism if Shakespeare
I
doesn't exist in this
suspect
world?
even to her.
I suppose it was paraphrasing.
Flemeth tells it with far more embellishment than I, but you are welcome. Dare I ask of your own mother? Few are abominations of legend, 'tis true, but I find myself curious nevertheless.
Aww.
I see. I find myself a little envious, to tell the truth. But it matters not. Let us move on.
Hey, she approves of something. It's a miracle.
Yes? If you must. Yes? We are in camp, so 'tis as good a time as any.
What? Okay, I need to see what happens.
What's this? 'Tis a rather odd discussion you seem to desire, leaning in so closely.
I want to talk about politics.
Oh, it's humor you desire. I didn't realize comedy had anything to do with this. How true. Let us do it right, then.
What's with the music? Oh, I need to see the other options on that. Oh, that music.
Yes? We are in camp, so 'tis as good a time as any. What's this? 'Tis a rather odd discussion you seem to desire, leaning in so closely. Not unless you stop.
Either way was funnier. The music is so awesome. Oh man. The music.
Yes? We are in camp, so 'tis as good a time as any.
So, what did she say the second?
Ah, such a romantic, I see.
Are you gonna play the music? Oh my god. Like a harp music and gentle choir. Okay. That was awesome. That was totally worth all the blah blah blah. Da-na-na-na-na-na.
What do you need?
No one has anything to say?
Yes?